What is really going on in internet about driver's license change in USA? Is it a fake news or legit stay guild? Let's dive into this update. Please like, then share and subscribe to this channel for more updates about automobile globally. They posted it everywhere. In your feed, in your family group chat, in a screenshot being shared as gospel. Starting September 2025, drivers aged 70 and over must retake vision, reaction, and cognitive tests nationwide. It sounded urgent, scary, and finally something that would affect millions of older Americans. But before you panic, unsubscribe from the fear, and maybe take a deep breath. Here's what actually happened, what's real, and what pure internet fiction is. So where did the confusion begin? Two facts collided and made a mess. First, the federal Real ID system, which governs what forms of ID will be accepted for things like boarding domestic flights, reached a new enforcement phase in 2025. That change, about identification for federal purposes, got tangled in people's heads with licensing requirements for drivers. Second, many states already have specialized rules for older drivers, vision tests, in-person renewals, sometimes more frequent renewals, and those local rules were misread as a new nationwide crackdown. The result? A viral tale that feels plausible, but isn't true. Let's be crystal clear about Real ID, because it's part of the smoke, but not the fire. Beginning in May 2025, the Transportation Security Administration, TSA, began strictly enforcing Real ID requirements for boarding domestic flights and entering certain federal facilities. Real ID means your state-issued card has to meet security standards, or you need a passport or another acceptable ID to fly. That does not change whether someone can drive or whether an older driver must take more tests to renew a license. It's about which IDs the federal government accepts for certain federal activities, not about state medical or driving competency checks. Let me walk you through concrete examples so the differences make sense. In New York, for instance, vision testing is required when you renew in person, and the DMV accepts vision screening results from a list of qualified providers or offers testing at the DMV office. That's not new this year, it's how the system has worked for a while. In Florida and several other states, there are age thresholds that change how renewals work, for example, requiring more frequent renewals or specific documentation. But even when states change their own rules, they announce the changes publicly and update their official guidance. They do not hide a secret nationwide mandate and then leak it on social media. Let's take a breath and ask the practical questions people actually care about. Will seniors lose driving freedom overnight? Will this mean mass retesting, long DMV lines, and the heartbreak of revoked licenses? The short, honest answer is no, not because everything's perfect, but because the mechanism for that kind of nationwide changes simply doesn't exist without clear legislation. What is likely, and what we have seen for years, is incremental, state-level adjustments aimed at balancing safety and independence. Lawmakers and DMVs usually roll out those changes with public notice, hearings, and transition periods, not surprise social media edicts. That said, there are real conversations happening about aging drivers and road safety. Demographically, the population of older drivers is growing, and states are studying how to keep roads safe while preserving mobility. Experts look at vision, reaction time, medication side effects, and cognitive health. Advocates on both sides, safety groups and disability/aging rights organizations, press for careful policy that protects lives without needlessly stripping independence. Those are important, legitimate debates, and they deserve better coverage than viral panics provide. If a policy change is coming in your state, you'll see it on the state DOT or DMV website, reported in local news, and debated by elected officials, not only in a forwarded post. There's another danger tied to this story: scams. As Real ID enforcement and license-related topics go mainstream, scammers see an opportunity. Fraudulent websites promising to expedite Real ID processing or demanding payment for services that DMVs provide for free have been flagged by consumer protection groups and the Better Business Bureau. Don't click on sketchy links promising to bypass DMV procedures. The safe path: go directly to your state DMV's official sites, call the listed phone number, and follow their published instructions. If a site asks for payment to apply for a Real ID online, that's a red flag. Real IDs generally require an in-person visit and original documents. So what should you say when Aunt Ruth messages you a panicked screenshot? First, don't forward it. Second, point her to her state DMV page. Third, if she's genuinely worried about driving ability, frame the conversation around safety and dignity. Offer help with vision checks, encourage a visit to an eye care professional, or suggest a driving refresher course. Those are constructive, compassionate responses that actually help people adapt without fueling panic. Remember, social media thrives on emotion. Civic institutions and healthcare professionals work with facts. Trust the latter when making decisions that affect your independence. To recap the essentials, the facts you can rely on today. 1. There is no nationwide, new federal mandate forcing every 70-plus driver into eye, reaction, and cognitive testing starting in September 2025. That viral claim has been debunked by local fact checks and DMVs. 2. Real ID enforcement for federal purposes, like domestic flights, did enter a new phase in 2025, but that deals with what IDs are accepted by federal agencies, not who must pass driving tests. 3. States still control license renewal rules, and those rules vary, sometimes sharply, from one state to another. 4. Scams and misleading articles will try to ride legit policy changes. Always verify with your state DMV or trusted national outlets. Finally, a quick word about how to read the news in the age of viral panic. When a story claims a sudden sweeping change that affects millions, ask, is the claim about federal law or state rules? Does the story link to an official source, a DMV, a state legislature, the Department of Transportation? Are reputable fact checkers or news organizations reporting the same? If the answer to those checks is no, treat the claim skeptically. Viral panic spreads fast. Policy changes don't, not without paperwork, press releases, and public notice. To sum up, the scare about a nationwide requirement for drivers 70 and older to retake a suite of tests is more fiction than fact. But the underlying concerns about safety, real ID, and how states manage senior driver renewals are real. Seek official sources, support elderly loved ones with respect and patience, and let facts, not forwarded screenshots, guide the conversation. Don't forget to engage on this channel so you can get more news on automobiles and everything about drivers globally. So like, then share and subscribe to this channel. Thank you.